Hello, everybody. We're gonna start. Okay, so this session is about Earth Grid, and this is kind of a message to light workers, family members, sacred grid workers. We're all here to talk about the crystalline. Oh, so I'm going to do things with my hands. So when I do things with my hands, it's because of this. It's because I can explain things in English or through the voice, but I can also explain things through my hand to your inner self, so that it's like two ways of communicating to you. It's one through your mental mind, but whenever me or anyone does hand mudras, we are also communicating, but we're communicating to your inner self in a way, in a language that your inner self can understand. So it's like two forms of communication going on, and your mental mind understands the language part, but your inner self understands the hand mudras. So that's what's going on in the background. And you see me doing funny things with my hands. We are going to talk about the crystalline grid that's about Earth, on Earth right now, and how you guys are all basically energetic tech support teams for Gaia. But before we start on that topic, I'm going to quickly give a brief intro to me, although I think most of you guys know me. So I am a Layak, but Earthlings call me Ambassador Daryl, and friends call me Daryl. Okay, so what that means is that I'm a very old vibrational signature born in the universe 13.85 billion years ago, originated through the cosmic elemental realm of creation in the seventh density, and that's where my affiliation to the cosmic dragons come from. But I like to hang out in the sixth dimension through most of my different ET species incarnations here. Right now, Earth, Daryl, third density in this 3D world, and this is my very first incarnation into Earth. So this is all kind of new to me. This really just started for me like 2 years ago, basically when I went to the Joshua activation and we just on the fly did an activation. And during that activation, of which several people here or at that activation and can support exactly what I said, that when I was lying on the table, four different channelers or psychic beings, and they're here right now. They saw, we're just playing around doing activations, basically. He wasn't even on the script. They saw portals and Merkabahs open up when they had me on the table and they were activating me. And to sum it up, that's when they said, welcome back, Ambassador. And the gist of it was that this is my first incarnation to Earth. I really am from a galactic background, and I have incarnated into Earth right now to help humanity raise into the fourth density. And when I first heard this, I'm like everyone else. I'm like, regular Joe, like everyone else. Who are these people talking about? And, but I know I've read a lot of books and I know a lot of different channelers. So, what my 3D logical brain does is that I cross-reference. I talk to different channelers and I didn't tell them what they said, and I verify what they said with different channelers who verify it, not knowing what the other channeler said. So I cross-reference everything, and little by little, I just got more and more information. Everything that they said is true, is supported by different channelers who don't know them or know of that event. And it's just been a wonderful, fascinating game of enlightenment and finding out who I am and who you are. And it's just been a lot of fun. So that's a bit about me. And I'm going to try to keep this down to 1 hour because we like to keep time while we're on 3D Earth. So before we talk about Earth's grid, I'm going to talk a little bit about Earth, because even though we're all human and we think that this is really the Earth grid pertaining to humans, it's really not. That's not the story here. The real story is Gaia. The real story is about Gaia is a being, and Gaia was born 4.5 billion years ago. And as a planetary being, she has a planetary family system, and they have all they have their family drama and rules and existence. And this big experiment that we refer to, and we normally think of, oh, the humans are in the big experiment. But while that is true, the big experiment of humans was triggered because Gaia went into a big experiment. This whole story is really about Gaia. We, the humans, are a subsequent effect because of Gaia and her story. We're just like the bit players. The really story is really Gaia, but briefly I'm gonna say that what Gaia did was that Gaia did an experiment where the first time of any planet, she decided to work with the architects of the universe where she agreed to shift down in density so that she can shift back up and have the universe witness that. So that's really the big story of what's going on here. But we're not going to focus on Gaia's story or the planetary story. We're going to focus on the human grid, which is surrounding Gaia. What you guys are all here for is to learn about the grid. So the grid that is surrounding Earth is a crystalline grid. You might have heard the word crystalline before because crystalline is the energy form that we in our human bodies are transitioning to. Right now, our human bodies are carbon based. But with these activations and what's happening with the human race right now, particularly those of us that are ascending, is that our DNA is being modified. And it's being modified in a way where we're moving into our crystalline body. And that is modifying our DNA. And that is the whole process of this ascension process. Okay, right now, our DNA is two-strand, carbon-based. But originally, and what we're moving back to is a 12-strand DNA process, of which that's when the crystalline is going to bloom, so to speak. So crystalline is the material of energy that we're moving into. Crystalline is also an energy source, a matter of Gaia. If you do research, you'll find out that Gaia, the Earth's core, is a crystalline core. So I'm just going to note that there, that crystalline is an important word because that's the matter of all things in the future that we're moving into, including our human body. So I'm going to go on and talk a bit about the grid. So it is crystalline. So crystalline is an important word to note. So there are many grids on Earth, and they have many different purposes. There are grids that overlap. There are some grids that cover each other. There are some grids that block each other. There are a whole bunch of grids. It's like a aura, sort of mean that wraps around Gaia. So we're just going to talk in particular about a grid that I'm going to call the 5D grid of Earth. And I'm going to explain why I'm not even going to call it the 5D new grid because it's not new, but we're going to talk about a particular grid. There are many different grids on Earth, but we're just going to focus on the 5D grid of Earth. It's crystalline base, and in summary, it's put up there to help us ascend and to help us download codes and to activate our light bodies and to help raise the consciousness of Earth. It's part of Earth's body. So just like we have a human body and our human body has property, Earth is a body. Earth is a being and has a body. So what I want you to think about is that in our human bodies, we have like a nervous system. We have meridian points on us. We have veins that intersect. So if you imagine that Earth also has a body. It's built differently, but it still has basically connection points and like that. So Earth has various ways that power her body. I think I mentioned previously that right in the center of Earth, there is a crystalline core and it serves a function, but there are many parts to Earth or Gaia's anatomy. One part of Gaia's anatomy is something that I compare it to the human's veins, and that is ley lines or dragon lines. Ley lines or dragon lines are found in on Earth's surface, although I predict that they're probably going through her too, but the ones that we know about are on Earth's surface. They are energy portals that feed Gaia. And just like our human bodies have veins that intersect at a certain point, Gaia has ley lines that intersect. Where they intersect is what we call nodes. Those are very powerful spots on the outside of Gaia. So this is very, very cool in that you actually see the Earth with its continents and land. And you remember how I said that Earth is like the human body? Well, the human body also has chakras, right? So most of you guys understand the human body and chakras. Well, Gaia also has chakras. And Gaia also has veins, which we call ley lines or dragon lines. This picture is very interesting in that it shows you the continents and it shows you the two main dragon lines that flow through Gaia. You see, she has a female dragon line or ley line, and she has a male dragon line and ley line. You see how it intersects on the second chakra of Lake Titicaca. Again, so that spot is very sacred to Gaia because that's the intersection of the male and female ley lines. And it's also a location of Gaia's chakra, one of Gaia's chakras. So I'm going to say something about chakras just to add to it because it's actually important to the grid work too. Just like our body has chakras, Gaia's body has chakras too. Traditionally, they have been prophesized by channelers in certain points of the earth. And there's pretty much a lot of common agreement about where they're at. However, what I noticed is that channelers for last 20 years, they've been moving around or they've been having different information. So I actually spoke to a very powerful channeler, Peter D, who channeled Gaia and explained this to me was that all of the previous channeling of Gaia's chakras are outdated because Gaia has now bloomed into a different form where she used to have individual chakras for like the throat chakra, the solar plex, like that. Right now, her body has changed so that each of her chakras is full and complete in itself. It's no longer that Lake Titicaca in South America is the second chakra. It's now a chakra that holds all the chakras together, as with all the other chakras that are on Earth. I can give people, while I give people a quick rundown, because this is actually important for grid work, in that traditionally, Mount Shasta has been thought of as the root chakra for Gaia. Lake Titicaca has been thought of as the sacral chakra for Gaia. Uluru in Australia is thought to be as the solar plexus for Gaia. Glastonbury, England, Shaftesbury is the heart chakra. And then the Great Pyramid was thought to be the throat chakra. And that's what it was when I visited this group. Some of my friends visited there. And then the crown chakra is Mount Kailash or something like that in Tibet. So again, that's the old model that different chakras represented different places on Earth, but Earth has now changed and has upgraded, so to speak. So each of her chakra is all of her chakra. The reason why I'm bringing up the chakra and the ley lines is that when you think about doing grid work, it naturally makes sense that the sacred sites to do grit work on are going to be located on Earth's chakras and ley lines, her nodes. And the reason behind that is that when civilizations had help by the extraterrestrials knew Gaia's anatomy. They knew what points on Gaia's body had energy vortexes that she had energy points for. So, with the help of extraterrestrials, that's where the humans built temples and pyramids because they built the temples and pyramids as a antenna, as a place to collect and use and shoot out that natural energy spot from Gaia. So that is why most of us do having a call to do grid work are going to find that we want to go to these spots. That's why these spots are sacred spots, is because they are energy points, they are chakras, they are intersection of ley lines, or they fall on ley lines. And that's why we feel called to go to that spot, because as a grid worker, what we're intuitively called to do is to go to that sacred spot and magnify that energy from Gaia and anchor in love and acceptance. And that anchors it into that particular sacred spot. And it sends out a big antenna where it will be used to anchor in and to connect points of key points on the grid that's surrounding Gaia. Okay, so before I go to the next area, I want to also say that, so I mentioned dragon lines, ley lines, how they go on Earth, and I imagine how Earth has chakras throughout the various continents. I'm also going to say that Earth has major portals. So all of these things are happening. So Stonehenge is not a chakra, it's a portal. Mount Fuji is a portal. Sedona is a portal. Niagara Falls is a portal. Machu Picchu is a portal, but Lake Titicaca is a chakra. You see, they're slightly different. Think of chakras as more of a big area, but there are particular points that are portals. They're more condensed energy forms where there are portals. The Mayan pyramids are a portal. The Nazar lines are the portal. The Serpentine Nati Park of West Australia is a portal space. So there are many different portal space throughout Earth. So that is also going to be added to doing grid work, is that you're going to be called to go to portals because there's an energy vortex there. There's a efficiency for you to go there and do grid work because there's a portal there. So I just wanted to add that. So there are many different elements that make hotspots, so to speak, for us to be visiting areas in order to do grid work.
Yes,
Benjamin.
yes,
Yeah,
Daryl.
I'm sorry,
Yes, Daryl.
Dana.
I love that you called me Benjamin. That's good. I'm just someone in the chat said, I think referencing the Peter D. Earth Chakra update from his perspective, said, where on Earth is her complete chakra location? So I didn't know if you wanted to explain that.
Where on earth is her complete?
Meaning each, yeah.
So I think what that question was asking was that person wanted the complete listing of all the earth chakras. I think that's what they were asking for. So yes, I can get people a list, but also know that the chakras have changed since Earth has gone into her new body. Earth has ascended into 5D, if people don't know. So with that, her previous system of these old chakras that I listed out have changed, and they have changed by the way that Peter D has said when he channeled Gaia, and Gaia said that those old ways of thinking of her chakra are is changed because now her chakra are all complete in itself. It's a new model where each chakra has the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, the heart, the third eye. It's all in contained in all in one. So that's the point that Peter D was making about Earth changing her chakras. So I hope I answered that question. Pam, you have a question?
So living pretty close to Sedona, I hear a lot about vortexes. Are the centers that you were talking about the same as vortexes, or are those different? The portals, I'm sorry, the portals, are those the same?
Same as vortexes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there's a little different frequency, but yeah, they're basically same thing, right? And you know that no list is going to be complete because they're going to be big portals and they're going to be small portals. There's a portal in my living room that my dog keeps on barking at every time the dragons come in. So, so there are portals all over us, right? All over. But the ones that I mentioned are the big tourist spots, let's say. They're the really big one that people felt drawn to and they go because they can feel the energy. So back on the crystalline grid, portal versus. So Jeff asked, what's the difference between a portal and a star grid? What I get is that they are essentially the same, except that a star grid is specialized for ET visitation, versus a portal is just a generic door opening. A star portal is a door opening for ETs. Does that make sense? Oh, that's Michael's question. Okay. So I hopefully I answered that. Can we open our own portals? Yes. We all have the ability to open portals, but we got to understand that A, we can do it, and then B, we got to learn how to do it. Certain of us have talents that are built into us and it will come naturally. Certain other of us need to learn how to do it mechanically. But yes, we all can do it and we all have different amounts of talent in doing it. So it's not something that you're going to be able to see, taste, hear, or feel. It's a 5D grid. It's a different sense. So you just got to understand the concept of it and you got to well, actually, once you develop your 5D skills, then you are going to be able to sense it and know it's there. Most of us here are grounded in 3D land and we're depending on our 3D senses. So you're not going to be able to see, touch, feel, or hear, the 5D grid. But I rest assured it's there. I'm just going to tell you guys that there were really 5 ages for humanity. The first age was when all the lands were together and connected. We did not have humanoid bodies there. It was just a different time, okay? The second age was the age of Hyperborealis. And that is actually when civilizations were congregated around Africa. And that was a time where the dragons and the fairies and the other realms rule the earth. That was the heyday of the dragons. Dragons were beings in that period of time that were third density and then graduated into fourth density. And they had their time and space during that second era. Then came the third era. Yeah, you know, and that was the area of Mu or Lemuria. By that time, the dragons all went bye-bye because their time came and went, but a few of the dragons stayed on during the time of Mu because they loved the humans and wanted to stay with the humans. Even if it meant that they had to flunk their graduation. The ones that stayed with the humans during Lemuria, they did not go on with all of their family into a higher density. They chose to remain in third density to flunk, so to speak, so that they can remain with the humans. So there were very few dragons that stayed during the time of Lemuria, but there were some. They were such high vibrational beings that most of the humans could not see them because they were vibrating at such a high density level. And there's so few of them that only gifted Lemurian priestesses that were of high vibration can see them and communicate with them. to them, they gave these priestesses extreme knowledge. The wealth that you hear in myth about dragons, the wealth is wisdom. That is their knowledge and wealth. And that is the treasure of the dragons. The treasures of the dragons was never anything monetary or physical. The treasure of the dragon has always been wisdom. And for those few Lemurian priestesses who are of high vibration and loving, they were able to interact with a dragon. The dragon picked them as their familiar. Yeah, it's it's not the other way around. The dragons weren't their familiar. The priestesses were their familiar because the dragons were actually of a higher vibration and a higher density level than the humanoids, the Lemurian priestess. So a very few of them stayed on Earth because they wanted to have this intersection with humanity. So during the time of Lemuria, what you guys need to understand is Lemuria was a time where the humanoids, it was a female energy-based society. All the females had complete control of the society. They made all the decisions. They were very in touch with their spiritual technology, their top three chakras. They were very in touch with living on the land and living with nature. And they relegated the males to basically catching fish and cooking fish. That was the purpose, and reproduction. That was the purpose of males. Males had no say on anything. They were just responsible for catching the fish and cooking the fish. And it was all female-based energy. And that was lovely in a way because they were very spiritually intact with their higher chakras, and they lived off the land, they lived off of their intuition, they lived off of loving nature. But guess what? It was imbalanced. Lemurian society focused too much on the top three chakras and not on the bottom three chakras, which are the bottom human survival, identity, the earth stuff. So the Lemurian society had its rise and fall. During the rise of the Lemurian society, that's when the Lemurians put up the grid around Earth for ascension to catch the love and light that was raised, to put a grid around there to capture that so that they would ascend to the fourth density as a group. So that was always the intention, and that was the birth of the original grid, 5D grid around Earth was done during the birth of the Lemurian civilization. As the Lemurian civilization fell, because all civilizations have their time where they rise and fall, became the birth of the Atlantean civilization. There was an overlap period where the Lemurians fell and the Atlanteans rose. The Atlantean society was one that was based off of male energy, logic, control, technology, and suppression of the female energy is the hallmark of Atlantis. And what happens when you have that is that you have imbalance. The Atlantean society was too much male energy and stifled the female energy. So that is why Atlantis had to come and fall. And that's what brings us into the age of Aquarius right now, is that it's been foretold by the Lemurians and the Atlanteans that with the fall of both of their civilization becomes the birth of the age of Aquarius, with the possibility that humanity will get it right this time and it will balance the male and female energy. And that is pivotal for Earthlings to make it into the fourth density. Now back to the grid. Originally, I thought, so Lemurians put up this 5D grid around Earth, knowing that it will help humanity raised to the fourth density. But something happened in the later part of Lemuria, and then which is also the beginning part of Atlantis, right? Because as Lemuria fell, Atlantis rise. What happened during that time was what we would call the Illuminati group, the separation, the belief that we're not one and that it's to my incentive to have power and control over you. So there were members of the Lemurian group and also the Atlantean group, but let's keep on the Lemurian group, who felt, oh, I'm not going to go with this love and light and unity thing. I'm going to go for service to self. I am going to go toward using my powers to put up a false grid, a grid that supersedes the loving grid. And I'm going to put up this grid that blocks the love light from hitting that original grid. It's a grid of fear and control. It's a grid that takes the energy that we all project and it shoots it out into this false grid to capture and stifles that love from reaching the true grid. So at the fall of Lemuria, during the time of Atlantis, that grid went up and it got more and more powerful because that's what the Atlantean society was kind of about, right? It's about male dominance, control, and power. And I'm not saying Atlanteans were that way or Lemurians. It's just that whenever you have any civilization, there are individuals who believe in power and control because we all have free will. And if they organize and they have power and control and they have powers, they will do that. They actually put up a false grid to supersede the Lemurian original grid so that it would capture fear and control and block the original grid that's around Earth. That was the original grid was made for the intention of helping humanity raise to the fourth density. The false grid is put up to prevent that because the false grid does not want humanity to raise to the fourth density because it wants humanity to remain in the third density because it gets power and control that way. If people understood that we are all one and that 5D grid gets activated, then the people in power would lose their power. The people in power right now are invested in the false grid because that's the grid that's surrounding Earth that keeps power and control and fear into everyone. So where we are right now, and then so those people, they have existence since beginning of Lemuria. They took dominance during the age of Atlantis, because that was the thing about power and control and stuff like that. And then Atlantis fell, and then the organizers of the universe, and again, this is tied to the story of Gaia, but they basically said, all right, for a time period here, all ETs off the planet, all the ETs that helped the Lemurian societies develop, which were Palladians, by the way, you're got to get off the planet too. All the ETs that helped the Atlantean society, and they were Anunnakis. They're the ones who came here and genetically modified the humanoid genes from 12 strands to 2 strands so that the humanoids can mind go for them. So they said, Anunnakis off the planet, every ET off the planet, and we're gonna let these Earthlings survive, thrive, or fall on their own. So there was a time period where all the ETs had to get off the planet and we had to see whether or not the Earthlings were going to make it or not. And everyone in the universe, all the different ET species were looking at Earth, taking bets and saying, oh, okay, are they going to blow themselves up? Are they going to make it? Are they not? It was up to human free will, collective consciousness, to find out what the humanoids were going to do. And thankfully, we made it. We actually made it during the harmonic conversion during 1987. That was the tipping point where all the ETs in the universe looked around and said, oh, those Earthlings are going to make it. So with that, we made the tipping point of making it. And with that became the surrendering, the decaying of the false grid, the grid that was put up to keep us in ignorance and help us keep from raising into the fourth density. That grid started slowly crumbling. And we are now at the point where that false grid has now completely tumbled. I think it tumbled like last year. And that right now we are reuniting. We're doing patchwork on that original grid. The grid that was originally started during the Lemurian time, where it will capture the love light energy of all the humanoids who go to sacred sites, who meditate. Well, I'll go into that, but it's that grid now that we're re-strengthening from the Lemurian times.
So with the falling of this false grid, is that why there's so much struggle with power and perceived bad stuff going on, that people are just like holding on so tight to it?
It's the last stand of the people who empower, who want the false grid to remain. They
Okay.
are throwing the kitchen sink at us right now because they want to keep their power. And they keep
Right,
their
because the more
power
you
by
can
making.
get, but you're keeping your focus on all that instead of
Correct,
focusing on the
correct,
change. Okay,
correct.
perfect.
Yeah, correct. So that is how you empower the false grid, is that you make people fearful, right? You put out in the news very fearful things, and then people focus on it. That powers the false grid. But we are all coming to the place right now where we're so used to the kitchen sink being thrown at us that we learn that the news, if it's power, if it's making you scared, don't watch it, right? We're waking up to their plan. And when we do that, when we understand that it's all about love, it's not about fear, then their false grid falls. So I'm telling you right now, they already lost. They're throwing their kitchen sink at us, but their grid has come down already, and our grid is going up. So, and I'm going to talk about how we make our grid secure, because that's what grid working is about.
I wanted to ask how it is related to the dragon line, because I'm getting a lot of messages about the green heart and our crystalline hearts. And I know I speak dragon and light language, and I know I have deep connections to Gridwork. So what are you getting around that? Anything?
Those are kind of like two topics that you blend together, but basically, let me try to answer them. The dragon lines are ley lines. They are the veins that run across Earth. So they feed Gaia. They feed Gaia as a human being. They are energy veins that flow through her body. As energy veins that flow through her body, if we sit on her vein, if we sit on a intersection of those veins, we absorb energy. We empower ourselves because we are taking the blood of Gaia into in a good way, right? We're not like mosquitoes, zapping her blood. We are just taking the energy that she wants to give us because we have the natural intuition to go to her ley lines and absorb her energy. And when that happens, that lets our true light shine out, right? It's like giving us a quick fix of boost, a kiss of energy from Gaia. And when that love shoots into our body, it makes our light language come out. It makes our hereditary come out. It makes our antenna up. It makes us be able to anchor love and also receive love, which is actually one of the purposes of being a grid worker. But did I answer that?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I know I just did it intuitively and now consciously, like you,
Oh.
but
Yeah. I'm going to talk about your heart chakra. Your heart.
because, yeah, I was getting messages about our crystal in our heart has been activated. And that, specifically around certain people that I've done activations with, like you.
Yeah. So this is the story. And I'm glad you brought that up. Remember I told you the Lemurians were all into their top 3 chakras? right? They were able to astral travel and do all these spiritual technology stuff, but then they were spiritually bypassing their bottom three chakras, right? Because they didn't care about survival or making money or organizing things. You know, they were just very lovey-dovey to nature, but they didn't do the human stuff that you're supposed to deal with when you're in the human world, right? They bypassed their bottom three chakras, right? So that's why they had their downfall. They did not balance their bottom three chakras. Next came the Atlanteans. What did the Atlanteans do? They bypassed their top three chakras and only focused on their bottom three chakras, those human needs of success, you know, getting money, getting power, feeling secure from a human perspective. Those are your bottom three chakras, right? They did not focus on their top three chakras, right? So that's why they had to go. There was imbalance, right? Which brings your question to the heart of the matter, was that it is the heart chakra. It is the green heart chakra that is necessary to balance your top three chakras with your bottom three chakras. The heart chakra is the key. You can make an argument that if you did nothing at all, but you activated your heart chakra, you would love everything and everyone so much that your bottom three and your top three will flow.
Right. Yeah.
Your heart chakra
That's
is
where
the
the
secret
work
sauce. Correct. It's the key. Because once you do your heart chakra, you open up the key to let the valve flow of all your chakras. Because once you have love in your heart, everything works.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Gridwork is where you have a calling to go to a sacred site because, again, you want to tap that energy vortex in Gaia. You want to tap the fact that, oh, the ETs built a pyramid here, and that's a physical structure that's going to amplify the energy, right? So you want to take advantage of all these free energy sources that will help you. And your intuition is going to call you to go there. And you're going to find that these sacred sites are like at Lake Titicaca, which is why I'm going to Peru, right? It's because the ETs have told those indigenous race, the Incas, you know, way back then, oh, there's a vortex there. There's an earth node here. So that's why they developed the sacred sites there over the centuries. So even when those civilizations like the Incas came and gone, those vortexes on Earth are still there with those portals and energy vortexes. And when we are going there, when a group of us are going there in September, or a group here goes to Egypt, or a group here goes to Mount Shasta, you are going to a sacred site and you are going to tap that energy vortex that's naturally flowing from the earth and that sometimes has a physical structure like a pyramid there. Sometimes it has a temple. Sometimes it has a church. It has a structure there to help amplifies that. Sometimes it could be that mountain, right? The mountain in Tibet, Mount Kanash, right? That is a structure that's an antenna there. And there are many ET races in there, by the way, but we're not going to get in there. But that is a chakra. That is actually the crown chakra of Gaia. And that physical structure is one big amplifier antenna. So if you go there, then you're going to be doing grid work there, right? So I think I covered like where grid works are and why they're there. So you guys are probably asking, well, what the hell do I do, right? Well, the answer is very simple, but it's very complex. And the answer is you just go there and you meditate and you listen to your inner self. You can go there and you can find out what the indigenous people have done there for centuries. Because when we go to Peru, I'm going to enjoy learning what the Incas did and learning how they talk to the ETs about how to increase their telepathy and their absorbing the vibration. So that's going to be fun stuff. And it's really nice to learn from other groups and receive coding from them and to give them coding. But the true thing for everyone, everywhere, is that you just go there and you meditate and you listen to your inner self. Your inner self will tell you what to do, because what's right for you is not right for the person next to you. It could be, but everything is you. It's based off of you. The individual, the message that you will get from your inner self is based off of your physical structure, the codes that are in your body, and where you are mentally at the time. It will release the perfect amount of information to you and for you. It will release it in the perfect timing. So if you go to a spot, any sacred spot, if you go to your back door yard, it can become a sacred spot, right? It's just that the ones with the chakra have more energy, but every place on earth is a sacred spot. If you're there, it's a sacred spot, because all you got to do is grid work. All you got to do is just sit there and meditate and talk to your inner self and ask your inner self, well, what do you want me to do? Your inner self might say, just sit there and meditate. And basically what you're doing is, and we are all grid workers, basically what you're doing is you're just accepting that we're all one and that we're all love. And you just go there with a heart of just giving and understanding that we're all one, and that we want to connect the love grid on earth with just love and acceptance. Now, your inner self might tell you, oh, you got that part, so I'm going to give you a secret to elevate that. So the fun thing about going, and I've seen other, like Mateus, what's his name? Mateus, whatever. I've seen videos of him doing grit work, and it's exactly what my inner self told me to do. Is basically, once you get beyond that stage of just meditating, and that's basic foundation, you got to meditate and talk to your inner self. After that, it becomes fun. It becomes like an Easter egg hunt, in that your inner self will tell you what to look for, how to line it up, how to have fun. So you don't go there with any plans. You just go there understanding that it's a scavenger hunt, that your inner self will talk to you and give you fun party clues of what to look for, what to place, and you just follow your intuition. There's no right or wrong with it, right? It can say, find a rock, find a round rock, put it here. It will give you all the information. What I predict will happen to me and what happens to many people, and these are common methods, but again, every method is particularly toward the individual. But for me, I know in my tool chest, my inner self will tell me something like, take a crystal, bring your crystal. Crystals have properties, and place your crystal here. Or my inner self will tell me to sit at this spot and do hand mudras, right? Open the vortex for a dragon there, right? It would say, or do light language. Lucky way, lucky way. Shana na 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 china kiwa. Ina china kira kaki shiniki. Whatever comes in naturally, you just do it. And you got to get over looking silly, because you're going to look silly, but who cares? They're all just 3D earthlings anyhow, right? So you just follow your intuition and you follow what your inner self tells you to do, and know that your inner self won't ever harm you. It will give you the perfect amount of information and the perfect timing based off of you. So you can sit there and do what the crowd around you is doing, because that will help. It helps to have clues from the Incas of what they've been doing for centuries. So I'm gonna really enjoy that one in Peru and participate on it. But at the same time, if I'm sitting there and I get the intuition to open a portal, I'll just do that with my left hand or something like that. You just follow what feels good for you. And you just understand that there's no rules, and you meditate and you talk to your inner self and you have fun, because this whole thing about your earth existence, and the number one rule for manifesting things, and this could be about money or anything, romance or anything, is your intention, your positive intention, hopefully it's positive. You can have negative intentions too, but hopefully your intention is positive. But then also is to have fun, because funness is the juice that powers your intention. So if you go there with an open heart and have a good intention to help the grid, help unite the grid on Earth so that all the Earthlings can ascend to the fourth density, to pack that grid around Earth, to put it back up there. If you go there with that positive intention, and you go there with a full heart and joy in your heart, that just makes your intention so powerful, and you just know you'll be efficient in connecting that grid work. So intention is everything, and joy is the power of your intention. So I'm also going to give you guys a little secret plug about, it's really nice to do it for society and to help humanity, but I'm going to give you some reasons to do grid work for you. What's in it for me? What's in it for my 3D self that I can benefit? I'm perfectly fine for helping Gaia and humanity, but what about me? What do I get out of it if I do grid work? Well, what you get out of it is that you in your physical body, when you go to a sacred site, you are absorbing codes from that sacred site. You are absorbing codes that have been left there for centuries and centuries so that you can go there. By you doing grid work and going there, you are physically absorbing those energetic codes into your body. When you do that, you activate your DNA. You change your DNA. And when you change your DNA, you get your psychic powers. You get more options. You raise your perspective. You will develop, we all have different talents, but you will develop skills like telepathy. You will develop skills like bilocating. You will develop all the clears, because it's all about taking the energy that's right there at that sacred site and absorbing it into your body. And when you do that, you change your DNA. So, it's great to do it for Gaia. It's great to do it for humanity. You just want to do it for yourself. It's a great reason for doing it for yourself, because you're absorbing codes into your body that will help you get your psychic skills. And by the way, you are not only absorbing the codes, you are giving out codes. All of us have codes are in our body right now. And by us going to the sacred site, we do alchemy. We do the mixture of two ingredients and we produce a magical ingredients. So we will not only absorb codes, but we will give out codes that are in us right now and spread them out to the people we meet. The people we meet will create alchemy with their codes, and then they will spread out those love codes to the people they meet. And the people they meet will go to different sacred sites and interact with different codes of those sacred sites and produce alchemy and meet other people. And all of that connects grid points around the earth. And as more and more grid points go around the earth, the more connected the grid is and the more powerful the grid is. So, yeah. So, yes. Oh, well, and also, another positive thing is that when you go to these sacred sites, they are like antennas. If you want to talk to ETs, you go to a sacred site. The sacred sites were sacred because they are stargates. They are vortexes. Stargates are technology that's made for you to communicate to ETs. If you meditate there at a Stargate, you can contact ETs. And most of you are part of ET families right now. You just don't remember it. But most of you are part of ET families. And when you go to a Stargate, that's like having one big antenna. So that's a very practical reason for going. And plus, when you can go to a sacred site by yourself, but it's more powerful when you do it with a group of people. Because when you do it with a group of people, you create a network, and then you take advantage of their skills and they take advantage of your skills, and together you produce alchemy and then you produce a clear channel to shoot it out to ETs, to various beings in the universe, to various dragons in the earth, to various multi-dimensional beings in Gaia. It's a multifaceted event, and it all triggers and blooms out. So and you know and it makes Gaia feel good. It makes Gaia giggle. When you go to a sacred site and you think love and you concentrate on putting up the grid and you think happy, loving thoughts, it makes Gaia feel good. It makes Gaia giggle. So let me just end it on that and ask if anyone has any questions. Jeff, do you want to read your question, or I saw your question flash up, or Dana, do you want to read Jeff's question?
Well, I'm seeing a question from Vicky first. It says, if we don't have the means to physically travel to these sites, can we mind travel when we meditate in our own backyards or through our dreams? So
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was asking a channeler to tell me, okay, after Peru, what sacred site do I go to? Right? Because that's going to be my life going forward. Is I'm just going to go to different sacred sites and do this fun grit work. And then they came up with an answer, and I got the answer in my mind. And I go, that's an Atlantean temple. That temple is underwater right now. You want me to do grid work underwater? You want me to learn how to scuba dive and to do grid work? Because you think about it, right? All these temples that were in Atlantis and Lemuria, they're all underwater, right? But yet you understand that they were created at grid points that on Earth, so that's why they were there. But when it went underwater, it's underwater, right? So I had like this funny talk with my inner self. Is like, I'm not gonna go scuba diving just so I can do grid work, I'm not gonna do that. So what I got was, well, then that's why you're gonna learn to bilocate, right? Because you're gonna learn to bilocate and do grid work at the sacred site that's underwater, that's a temple for Atlantis or Lemuria that's sunken. But if you learn to bilocate, you can do that because you're bilocating. So I thought that was fun. It's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. Okay, I just got to learn how to bilocate, but yeah, it makes logical sense. So I'm going to answer the bilocating question, but in order for me to answer the bilocating question, I got to answer the question that was needed before the bilocating question. Okay, so before you learn to bilocate, it is advisable that you learn how to absorb the vibration of a place that you're physically in before you learn to bilocate to a different physical place. So that's the question that I want to answer first, is that, all right, if I'm in a sacred site, how do I absorb the vibration of that sacred site? If I'm at Mount Shasta, what can I do to plug into Mount Shasta to absorb the vibration of Mount Shasta? If I'm in Lake Titicaca or Machu Picchu, how do I absorb the vibration of Machu Picchu? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to anchor in love and light, but how do I know what I'm anchoring into? How do I anchor Machu Picchu? How do I anchor Mount Shasta? So that's the question for me to answer before I teach you guys how to bilocate to another area, which I'm not going to do today. How do you find the vibration of the sacred site so you can get the full effect of it? Dana knows this answer because I already told him the answer, so I'm not going to ask him. But I want you guys to think for a second. If you wanted to absorb the vibration of a sacred site, what would you do? I know Dana's biting his tongue because I told him the answer. But okay, crystal is a very good thing. Very good, right? But crystals, just so you know, you should bring your crystals to sacred sites because crystals have information in there. And when you're bringing your crystal, you can absorb that information to your body. You can also put it onto the ground and create a grid. So yes, if you go to sacred site, bring your crystals. Yes. And I'll talk more about that later on. But there is a particular thing that you can do to absorb the vibration of the sacred sites. So I'm gonna give you guys a little hint. It's something you would do because you're human. Because you're human, what would you do to absorb the essence of a sacred site? I'll give people just like 5 more seconds because I'm just biting my tongue and I want to tell people. Laying on the ground is a good thing, and yes, that's part of the answer. But I'm going to explain to you more of why that's part of the answer. Breathing is part of the answer, but I'll explain why it's part of the answer. Purging. I got to think about. Okay, so if you want to go to a sacred site and you want to absorb the vibration of that sacred site, because you are human, what you are going to do is you're going to use your human 5 senses. You are gifted with 5 senses in your human body. So you're going to take advantage of those 5 senses, and you're going to absorb the sacred site's vibration using those 5 senses. For example, if I go to, I can pick anything, Mount Shasta, or we can even do this with the Great Pyramid. We'll do Mount Shasta. If I go to Mount Shasta, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my sense of smell. I'm going to sit there and meditate, and I'm going to absorb the vibration of the smell. There are various ways you can do that. You can smell the land. You can take a leaf from Mount Shasta and put it in your nose and smell it. You can even go dance, and you can bring sacred oils and do connection of that sacred oil with the pairing of it with the thing, and then use that smell as a future reference to your mind pairing it with the sacred site. That's a little more advanced technique, but yes, you can use your smell. You can smell the ground. You can smell something to absorb the vibration, using your sense smell of that sacred site. You can use your visual sight, and yes, you can take a picture with it, but best thing to do is take a picture with your eyes and imprint it in your mind. So you use your visual sight to have a imprinting of it with your mind's eye, right? So you're using your sight to stamp it in to your body by having a picture with it. You can also use your human sense of touch. You can take your hand and you can rub it against the pyramid. You can rub it against the ground. You can rub it against the mountain. You will use your physical touch to absorb the vibration of touch of that sacred site. You can sit quietly and listen using your human sense of hearing. What vibration of hearing that sacred site can you do? It could be the rumbling of the earth. It could be the vibration of the earth. It could be anything. Your inner self will give you the auditory clues that it wants you to pair with that sacred site. What's the last one? It's one that no one really thinks of, but to me, it's like, come on.
Michael's got it.
Taste. Correct. You can taste the site. You don't think about it, but you can taste the pyramid. You can stick your tongue on the pyramid and taste it. You can take your finger and put it on the ground and taste it. You just need the minute vibration of it for it to record. You don't need like to take a fistful of dirt and eat it, right? You just need to just taste it, because we're talking about just getting the essence of the vibration into your human senses. So when you take advantage of all your human senses, you stamp in that sacred site into your inner being, so that in the future, if you want to bilocate to a place that you've been before, you have the database already in you. You have taken the time to record the database in you. So if you want to bilocate to a place that you've been before, like the Great Pyramids, that's what I do. I draw on those data points that I have absorbed through my past physical being there, where I absorbed it through all my 5 senses. Does that make sense? It's pretty cool, isn't it? Isn't it pretty cool? It completely makes a logical sense, right? If you're in a human body, take advantage that the human body have 5 senses, and you can exploit all 5 senses to your advantage.
Yeah, it's one of the
you know,
times that I'll eat a little meat. If I know the chicken has been eating all the bugs and everything around there, then I'll eat a little bit of meat to get all that. That's just a little piece. Yeah.
that's a perfect way of using your taste sensation, right? Because you are absorbing the vibration of the land. I mean, and we do this when we are touristy and we eat good food from that culture, right? We're absorbing the vibration of that culture and that land by eating good food because it is of that land, right? So it's you get it's the same mentality. You're absorbing the vibration of that culture, but if you're at a sacred site, you can go one closer. You can actually taste the pyramid, right? You can taste the rock. You can feel the rock, right? That just gets you more close to the actual data point that you're investigating. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So that's how you bilocate to a place that you've been before. At a future, because we're out of time, we'll talk about how to bilocate to a place that you've never been to, like under in the temple in Atlantis. I'm still working on that one, but once I figure it out, I'll tell people.
There's a request, Daryl, from Stephanie that if you could bless the group with the dragon transmission, that she would be grateful.
This is an activation from the Palladians speaking their voice woven with the golden threads of their Larian heritage. In other words, it's 2 galactic groups, and it's the parent group of the Palladians. The Palladians is the Larians. So this is actually a language that combines both of them. So I'm going to start it with Little Dragon, which, lucky way, lucky way. Shana na 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 shina kina wa shinikiwa. So that's dragon. And then this came from the Palladians with their Lyran heritage, is the message: we receive you, all of you, eternal and infinite, through all that is, all that was, and all that will be. Isha Ima Ata. So thank you all. I've had a great time. So we'll have to
Thank
do this
you.
again
That
because it
was
was a lot of
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, thank you. That was awesome,
Thank
Daryl.
you.
Okay.
Thanks, Daryl.
All right.
That was
Goodbye,
awesome,
everyone.
Daryl.
All
Ambassador.
right.
Thank you, Carol. It was great. Thank
Ambassador.
you.
I love
Okay.
you.
Daryl.
you.
Bye.